there's two kinds of reviews. One to try and describe if something is good, and the second to try and describe if you actually want the thing. I think this review is going to be the latter. So what is this? This is a SpacePilot Pro from 3D Connection, which I think is a subsidiary of Logitech, and it's a 3D mouse. So what that is kind of a nubbin, and you hold it in your hand and you can move around 3D geometry. I'm a professional 3D modeler, SolidWorks and Blender. You know, I've been doing this for almost a decade. I feel like I have some insight as to like a 3D workflow, and I was genuinely curious. This came up for sale on eBay. It's lightly used. First up is SolidWorks. It's kind of the industry standard for 3D modeling, for CAD modeling, for parametric modeling. So the first up is the mouse. And the mouse interface is pretty simple. You have this middle mouse button, and you just kind of click and move your mouse around. And then if you want faces, I've mapped these to my hotkeys, so you have front, top on your numpad. And so that requires this motion, which is mouse to numpad. And when we're talking about these sorts of efficiencies, we're talking about delay in how efficient you are. I used to have my hotkeys like on the mouse itself. I used to have numpad keys on here, and I've since remapped them to other things like sketch tools. On the other hand, we have the 3D mouse, which you can see we just kind of rotate and adjust with our fingers here. And we have, because there's more axes, you can do other things like this rotate left and right, and then looking around the other way, pushing in and out. So our zoom, previously it was on the scroll wheel on the mouse, now we can push in and out and rotate and look around. And there's also these fun macro keys like fits it to the screen, and then you have your front, side, top, and an isometric one, which is nice. And so the idea is, instead of having to do this whole mouse hotkey thing, you have this, and then these are kind of under your thumb, and you can just sort of naturally click them without having to do much hand moving. The other theory behind it is that you would be so good with this manipulation tool that you could just kind of think of a place and, you know, get there really quickly. I'm not practiced. This came the other day. For me, I've been mousing for a decade. Like, this is very natural to me. If I want to zoom in and do something, I know how to get there. And so moving around is very fast and fluid for me because, you know, I've been doing it for a long time, and that's a lot of muscle memory and a lot of practice. You can zoom in and out with shift if you want, and then you can pan around with control. And so the promise of having manipulation in one hand and clicking in the other, so you never have to kind of use the mouse, is so that you can divide the work up, spread it out, and be more efficient using both at the same time. In my mind, I'm not sure this is so good because I'm already kind of doing that. I have control and I have shift in my left hand, and with those two things I can choose how I want the mouse to operate, and the mouse itself does what it needs to do. So all in all, I think that's kind of my review. I've been playing with this for a few days now, and admittedly as a practice thing, admittedly I would get better with time. For me, I don't think it justifies the amount of space it takes up on my desk. I don't like it. I don't like having things on my desk. I don't need more things on my desk. The fact is, I like having my left hand on the keyboard because you get, you know, 30 to 50 macros and hotkeys, and you just can't on the mouse. And also it doesn't provide very much difference as far as like actual spatial manipulation. The third secret bonus reason is I actually don't change my view very much. If I had to guess how much I changed the view while I was modeling, it would be a lot. As I was playing around with this, both with the old mouse and with the 3D mouse, I came to realize that my modeling workflow doesn't actually require a lot of view changes. For the most part, it's a lot of hotkeys where I'm manipulating stuff in the 3D space without actually looking at it or looking around it. I can model a heck of a lot of stuff without ever changing my view. This is doubly true in SolidWorks because typically you're making sketches on planes, and so you're always looking at a plane and never really like looking around a thing because you typically only make geometry in one axis at a time. My verdict is that I wouldn't buy one. It's not worth the money, it's not worth the desk space. The efficiency gains seem marginal, if not negative, at least for my personal workflow. And so unless you have a very specific application where you feel like you really need the ability to manipulate both your cursor and your viewport at the same time, like sculpting, I just don't understand why it would be an improvement. You have a perfectly good mouse in your hand already.